Hello, and welcome to League of Josh podcast. My name is Joshua, and I ask the questions around here. This episode was recorded on May 11th, 2021. This conversation is illuminated by the presence of Vince Luciani. This is a retrospective joke, but we'll dredge forward anyways. In this conversation, Vince and I discuss his success in the domains of personal business, retail, corporate, as well as being an award-winning public speaker, and why he would inevitably give up all of these things, choose to sell everything he owned, and move across the country to become an aspiring artist. Vince's willingness to tune into himself and take the leap of faith is something that I admire deeply within the human spirit. One's ability to see truth in themselves is often eclipsed by an unwillingness to act out their personal myth in this cosmic drama. So often are we disenchanted by the brutally inhospitable world that we find ourselves in, willing and seemingly eager to impose suffering on us at a whim. We often think of all the reasons that a grand decision may lead to our inevitable demise without acknowledging the inevitability of the demise itself. As our time in this drama ebbs, so do the decisions available to us that crown us a respectable main character in our own personal journeys. Your adventurous journey lingers in the back of your mind, nagging you as something you know to be true, but will not muster the courage to utter it, as giving something a name gives it life. Only by whispering something to yourself can you set on the path to chant it for others. Regrets held closest to the heart often stem from neglecting the heart itself, not speaking when you knew it was needed, not acting when you knew it to be true. These regrets sink their talons deep and grip tight, leaving not only the mark, but a lesson to trust yourself. I end this rant, dear listener, with a question to be pondered. It is not the often discussed, why do such a thing, but the equally essential syzygy in, why not? I actually just finished a book by C.S. Lewis called The Problem of Pain. And in this book, he's trying to deconflate the idea of sacrifice and suffering. I think that's what he's doing. I don't know if he's actually doing that explicitly, but I think implicitly he was trying to do that. And he's trying to dissect them from needless suffering into suffering as a sacrifice for the future. And by sacrificing something in the moment, you're actually investing yourself into the future. And it seems like you've experienced that through your willingness to be unapologetically yourself, is that you're sacrificing maybe the momentary glances from people that disapprove of what you're doing, and you're letting that manifest later on in the people that you truly find love with.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And I will also say to anyone listening, I'm also apologetically myself a lot of the time too. So just need to share that it's not,
It's tough not to be. No, absolutely.
Of course.
It's something that it's something that we just have to do as human beings. A lot of the time you do have to, and I think that's a part of working with, like, doing shadow work, is acknowledging the parts of yourself that maybe you're not as big of a fan of, and changing that and molding it into your ideal self. You're moving from, I wouldn't say you're moving from a shadow version of yourself into a more light version. I think that would be spiritual, a very spiritual way to put it. But I think that you're taking parts of yourself that you think you could integrate into a more whole and fulfilled being.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that a part of that is being apologetically yourself. You have to understand what your shortcomings are and the places that maybe you could be a little bit better. And from there, you do move towards someone that you would like a little bit more. It's an ideal. We're essentially impersonating a version of ourselves that we would look up to in the moment.
I love that. Love that. And yeah, I believe that's what magic is turning that dark and bringing it to light.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what we're here to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I brought this up last week on this call of, like, the darkness in the world is a manifestation of the internal darkness that the 7.4 billion of us carry. And I said, like, the consciousness of the planet is the byproduct of the consciousness of all the humans living on it. So, like, there are parts of my subconscious that are burning. There are parts of my subconscious that are hungry. There are parts of my subconscious that, I literally feed way too much, and look at the planet the exact same way. There's parts of myself that I've neglected. There's parts of the world that we're neglecting right now.
Hmm.
You know, like it's all a byproduct of our internal world. And the more we can transmute our own darkness into light, the more it brings up the awareness of what's happening in the world. I don't believe it can work the other way. You know, it's like we're all fighting for people to see this thing, but people can't see what they can't feel energetically. You know, I don't believe that. It's kind of like, you know, when I was thinking about um, what finally came to the surface this year with racism, and I learned, like, from an energetic standpoint, if I'm, as a white male, if I'm saying all the right things, but I haven't done the healing to truly understand why I said those things in the first place, then energetically it's empty. I'm not actually changing the world. But if I'm willing to look at my own healing while saying the right things, that's where it's like there's change there, and there's a deeper understanding as to why is this happening in the first place.
Hmm.
You know, and you know, I think, as a, you know, going back to labels, we need to acknowledge the labels that we've created in this world that had separated us, and we can't just skip over them now that we've created them and there's all those issues because of them, because that's the bypassing, right? And it's, you know, because we heard a lot of it while that was all happening, of love and light, love and light. But light is truth. Light isn't being good all the time. Light is harsh truth.
Hmm.
And if I'm not willing to look at my own harsh truths, I can't acknowledge the harsh truths that are out here. I can't. And until I do, they're just going to keep triggering me. You know, and again, as a white male, I'll say it again. It's like that's my responsibility, because I carry, like, think of, in our ancestry, like, think of the amount of racism that has been passed down. And if we don't acknowledge that, we can't heal it. It's the same thing within our own subconscious. I'm not just gonna be like, oh, I love myself, I'm good, everything's fine, I'm healed. You know,
Yeah.
it's the same thing in the world. Like, we can't unite unless we acknowledge the divide. We
Hmm.
can't. And that's why I think it's really important that we all look at ourselves. And in this time of this pandemic, I hope that I mean, I can't even hope. Like, it's just, I wonder what the world could be like if we all looked at ourselves.